Virgo, what to do with this great opportunity that is coming. There's a type of person who knows exactly what to do in a crisis. They see the problem before it happens, plan 3 exit strategies before even entering one, and carry a mental version of every possible scenario in their pocket. Everyone wants this kind of person around when things get tough. But almost no one asks what it's like to be that person when something good is coming. When the scenario isn't one of crisis, but of opportunity. Because Virgo, and you know what I'm talking about, handles opportunities in a way that no one outside of Virgo can fully understand. It's not disinterest, it's not a lack of ambition, it's something more subtle, more internal, harder to name. It's as if there's a silent protocol that activates whenever a large door opens. First, inspect the door, then check the hinges, check if the floor on the other side is solid. And then, almost always then, someone on the other side has already passed through. You didn't miss the opportunity, you never miss one. Virgo isn't the sign that misses opportunities, it's the sign that analyzes them until they have to go. What if I told you that the great opportunity that's coming into your life right now isn't waiting for you to be ready? That it arrived precisely because you arrived. Not in the final version, not in perfect polish, not after the last adjustment you were saving as a condition to take the step. There's something that happens to Virgos on the eve of real change. A silence that isn't peace. It's the moment before the most prepared person in the room realizes that maybe the problem isn't preparation, maybe it's permission. I've spent years studying what Virgo builds inside, while the world only sees the external result. And I found a pattern that always appears, without exception, every time something big is about to happen. Virgo knows. She senses the opportunity before it arrives. She prepares the ground, she does the work, and then, at the moment when she should take the next step, she hesitates. Not out of fear, out of something older and more complex than fear. What you're going to hear in this video isn't about organization, it isn't about method, it isn't about more preparation. It's about what's on the other side of the pattern that Virgo knows so well, and which, this time, she's going to name. You've spent your whole life preparing for the right moment, not passively, actively, committedly, rigorously. You studied, planned, adjusted, refined. And now the moment is arriving, and the first thing you felt wasn't joy. It was a kind of silent warning that you know very well and that you've never been able to properly explain to anyone. This isn't a Virgo flaw. It's the sign's deepest signature, and understanding it changes everything about what's about to happen in your life. There's a fundamental difference between being ready and feeling ready, and Virgo, more than any other sign, has grown up confusing the two. You've become an expert at being ready, at having your files organized, your knowledge sharp, your plan revised. But feeling ready? That requires an inner permission that Virgo rarely grants itself. A kind of signature on the document that says, I declare myself sufficient for this. And that signature is the hardest of all for Virgo to put on. Think about how you got here. Every step was calculated, every decision went through a rigorous internal filter. You built probabilities, not luck. You assessed risks that other people didn't even realize existed, and yet, in the silence of an ordinary night, when you look at what you've built, something inside you still asks, is it enough? Is something still missing? This is the cartographer who spends their entire life mapping territories for others, and when they open the drawer where the map of their own house should be, they find the drawer empty, not because they didn't know how to make a map, but because mapping oneself meant admitting a destiny, and destinies can be reached or not. So Virgo, with all their intelligence, found an elegant solution. They left the drawer of their own map empty and became busy mapping everything around them. So Virgo did the smartest and most self-destructive thing at the same time. It kept moving, always moving toward the next preparation, the next adjustment. Constant movement has an invisible function. While you are preparing, you are not arriving. And arrival means exposure. and exposure means evaluation, and no one evaluates Virgo more rigorously than Virgo herself. But now something has changed. You can feel it, not as certainty, but as a different kind of pressure in the air. The opportunity that lies ahead is no small one. It's no longer just a step on the ladder, it's a door of a different size, and what you do with it will depend on something no plan taught you. What does Virgo do when the world finally points at her and says, "Now it's your turn"? There's no easy answer to that question. And that's precisely why the discomfort you're feeling right now isn't weakness. It's a sign that something real is happening. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. Not as a list of affirmations, but as a precise mirror, the kind Virgo knows how to build for others and rarely manages to hold up to themselves. It was made for the exact moment you're in right now, that instant between recognizing the pattern and not knowing what to do with it. Between seeing the door and not knowing if you're allowed to walk through it. Between feeling that the opportunity has arrived and still not being able to say, "It's mine." You're at that point now, still processing, with that active discomfort that's Virgo's trademark on the eve of something big. It's precisely here that the decision to act or wait will shape what comes next. Not tomorrow. Now. Because Virgo already knows too much about waiting. And this book exists for the moment when waiting is no longer a strategy, it's just a habit. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And while you reflect on this, tell me in the comments, when was the last time you were completely ready for something and yet hesitated? What was holding you back? There's a word Virgo uses a lot, and it carries a weight she rarely examines: deserving. Not in the superficial sense of, "I worked for it, so I deserve it." In the deepest sense, the visceral, internal, silent belief that what's coming is truly meant for you. That it's not a mistake, that it won't be taken away, that you won't have to give it back. Virgo learned very early on that being behind the scenes is safe, that being the support is valued, that keeping everything running smoothly is a form of belonging that will never be questioned. And this learning was real. It was necessary, adaptive, intelligent, but it left a mark that lingered long after the original situation passed. A playwright who writes plays for other actors, who knows every line, every pause, every emotional arc, who feels the weight of what he has created every night, and who watches from backstage the applause for someone who performs what he wrote. Not for lack of talent, for lack of permission, a permission that never came because it never needed to be formally denied. It simply never appeared. And then comes the opportunity, a big, real one, and the world points. And Virgo stands still for a second that feels like an internal eternity, not because they don't know what to do, but because being seen means being judged by eyes that don't share their standards, eyes that might not perceive the mistakes you see in yourself every day, but that might also not see the value you've built. And which of the two possibilities scares Virgo more? Being judged for their mistakes or not being recognized for their worth is a question worth asking. Here is the central paradox. Virgo spends years polishing itself, and the more it prepares, the more it finds what still needs improvement. A precious stone that the more it is polished, the more imperfections the lapidary sees revealed by the light at new angles. The polishing never ends because the standard of perfection grows in direct proportion to the skill. But opportunity won't wait for the final polish. It's arrived now, in the moment you're in, not the one you imagined. And that's simultaneously the best and worst news. The best because the world sees in you something you don't yet fully see. The worst because you'll have to show up before you're absolutely sure you're ready. But there's a third thing in this news that Virgos rarely hear. The moment you appear imperfect and real is precisely the moment you begin to be truly seen. Not the version you polished for presentation, the person who built all of that, And that person, with all their revisions and doubts and impossible standards, is more interesting than any version you could have prepared with more time. What's coming for Virgo is no coincidence. It's the universe recognizing what you've silently planted for years. Every project finished when you could have abandoned it. Every detail adjusted when no one would have noticed. Every problem solved before it became a crisis. This has real weight, this accumulates, and it's manifesting now as an open door. The book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, exists for this moment, to help Virgo recognize what they have already built. No more preparation. Recognition of what has already been created. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. A garden planted through years of silent work doesn't announce when it will bloom. It simply blooms when the soil has finally processed everything it has received. And the gardener who spent years planting, watering, removing pests on cold, silent days is often indoors, busy with the next planning when the bloom begins outside. Virgo plants with surgical precision, with a consistency that seems excessive to others, and they are rarely looking at the garden when it begins to respond. Because Virgo's habit is to always be one step ahead of what is happening. And this means that the present, with all its unexpected abundance, often arrives without an audience prepared to receive it. The opportunity that's arriving now is the garden blooming, not because some external force decided you were ready, but because you planted enough with enough consistency for long enough. The seed was planted at a time when you didn't even remember planting it. The work was done during a period when you were just going through the motions, unaware that each step was building a foundation for something that would only make sense later. And now the soil has given back. With one detail that Virgo needs to understand: the garden won't wait for the complete planning. It has already bloomed. The only question is whether you will open the door and see. And here's what's disturbingly beautiful about this metaphor. The gardener doesn't need to understand soil chemistry for flowers to grow. He needs to have planted. Virgo, planted. The bloom isn't asking for permission or explanation. It's happening because the work was real. The only thing that can prevent Virgo from seeing it is being too busy with the next planning to look out the window of her own garden. And then come the tests, because Virgo rarely arrives at a great opportunity without encountering, just before the leap, obstacles that seem to have been placed there intentionally. A logistical complication that didn't exist yesterday. A doubt that resurfaces more convincingly. An inner voice that finds the most reasonable argument in the world to wait a little longer. These obstacles in the anteroom of great opportunities are not warnings that the path is wrong. They are the test of commitment that precedes every real achievement. They are the lock with multiple mechanisms, which only opens when all the parts turn together at the same time, without hesitation. And Virgo has all the keys. She has crafted them over the years. What is missing is not the key. It is the decision to use them all at the same time, without keeping one as a precaution, without keeping a backup exit. The fear of using all the keys at once is the fear of complete commitment, because total commitment means that if it doesn't work, there's no buffer. There's no, I didn't try my best. Virgos often prefer to keep a portion in reserve, so they can say, if something goes wrong, that there was a more prepared version that could have been used. But the opportunity that is coming does not accept partial compromise. It takes the exact form of the effort put in, no more, no less. And it will demand that Virgo show up completely, not the version being polished to a standard that never stops rising, the version that exists now with what has been built up to this point, whole, without reservation. There is a difference between caution and hesitation. Virgo knows caution very well. It's part of what makes Virgo so reliable, so precise, so rarely impulsive. But the hesitation that comes now is not caution. It's the old reflex of a version of herself that still didn't believe she deserved to be on stage, and recognizing that, calling it by its right name, is the first step to turning the key. What's testing you isn't the circumstance. It's the deepest belief about what you're capable of receiving without immediately giving back, without minimizing. Roots older than any technical review can reach. The book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, delves into this layer, where Virgo holds the narratives about itself written before it had the discernment to question them. Not to destroy them, but to translate them, to separate what was protection from what became limitation. This is the work that precedes the real leap. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. No previous chapter prepared you for this one, because this one is about Virgo's most difficult lesson, the one that goes against everything built as identity: receiving. Don't say thank you. Don't get back to work immediately. Don't diminish what has arrived. Don't immediately find the next problem to feel useful again. Receive it. Let what has arrived settle completely, without relief valves, without mapped exits, without the discrete version that doesn't demand an answer from anyone about whether you really deserved it. Virgos have relief valves that activate when something good starts to accumulate. You know the effect, that moment when things are going well and you create an obstacle where there wasn't one. Or when an achievement arrives and you immediately redirect your attention to what's still missing. Or when someone genuinely praises you and you instinctively downplay or redistribute the credit. It's the valves opening, emptying the reservoir before it overfills, before you have to wonder what to do with so much water, before high levels become the new normal. The reservoir was built with real labor. It has real capacity. The problem was never the construction. It was the unconscious mechanism that prevents it from filling completely. Installed a long time ago under circumstances that demanded this protection to protect something that, in that context, needed to be protected. But that context has passed. The mechanism remains. The great opportunity that is coming will require you to close those valves, not forever, but with a conscious decision that this time you will let the reservoir fill, that you will keep what has arrived, that you will let the reconnaissance land without immediately looking for where it is wrong. Closing the valves isn't about losing discernment. It's about expanding discernment to include yourself as an object of attention and care. Virgo has this care for projects, for the people they love, for the systems they keep running. The step being asked now is simple to describe and profound to execute. Include yourself on the list of things that deserve to receive what you have built. Closing the protective valves that Virgo has built is an act of courage and precision. It's not about abandoning self-awareness. It's about directing that precision inward with the generosity that Virgo reserves for projects it considers important. The book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, works with these patterns, converting them into portals to a version of yourself that receives what you deserve without diminishing what you have already received. You've come too far to stop because of a mechanism that was installed before you knew you could question it. Finally, the architect inaugurates the building. And at that moment, between the drying varnish and the prepared speech, she realizes something that no technical project could have predicted. The corridors are exactly the height she always preferred. The light enters from the angles she always found most honest. The materials are what she defended in every difficult meeting, every time someone suggested replacing them with something cheaper, faster, easier to justify in a spreadsheet. The building belongs to her. It's a reflection of everything she believes about excellence, about the value that exists in the details that no one consciously notices, but that everyone feels when they enter that space. Virgo, the great opportunity that is coming is not something that will arrive from the outside to transform you. It is the world's response to who you already are, to what you have built silently, consistently, with that standard that never wavered, even when it could have gone completely unnoticed. You don't need to become someone else to receive this. You need, perhaps for the first time, to trust the work you yourself have done, with your own precise eyes, but this time directed inward as recognition, not as an audit. Trust that what has been built is solid enough, that the blossoming that begins now is proportional to the actual planting, and that the planting was real, honest, consistent, even on the days when no one was watching. The opportunity was waiting for you to reach your own version, not the perfect version still being polished, but the real version that exists now. And you, without fully realizing it, were becoming exactly that person with each step taken in silence. With each project completed without an audience, with each night you revised it yet again because your standard wouldn't allow for less. Not in the next preparation, now, exactly as you are, precise, attentive, profound, and finally ready to let the reservoir fill to the brim, because the reservoir was made exactly for that. And you were made with all your precision and depth to receive what you built.